Welcome to Longevity Industries' presentation of the Destiny of Manufacturing podcast. I'm your host, Dean Phillips, and today with me I have Marc Farrell from Winland Foods, where he is the plant manager. Welcome today, Marc. How are you doing, sir?
Great, Dean. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's great to have you here. It's so interesting because a lot of times we have people on from different technologies and different companies. It's great to have somebody on that works in the food industry because it's such a different, I guess, a different approach to different types than most people in metals and other things. But it still has some of the same challenges, the same nuances, the same workforce challenges. But it's good to have somebody else's perspective. We've had people on from like the bun company before in one of our episodes, and it's good to hear some different perspectives with different materials.
Yeah, that's for sure. Like you said, all the different industries, technology means different things to them, and it is definitely something you have to think about based on the business you're in, right? How you use it and how you'll manage your business with it moving forward.
Right. So right off the bat, what's the big takeaway you see for the destiny of manufacturing or 5 years into the future in your crystal ball?
Well, obviously, I think everybody right now coming out of the pandemic, the whole labor balance and, how technology or robotics may or may not play a role in that in the next 5 years. I think another area is, data analytics and how technology maybe could use the data that's collected in a way to, help performance, help make, things easier for team members or the workforce to, control their line or keep things in spec. Training is a really a big one, I think, that's going to be really important in the future to see how we're going to train the up and coming workforce and technology and how it's used and what their level of interest is going to be in that moving forward. Cost obviously is another big one moving forward. You have to manage your costs to be competitive. So how is this technology going to, fit into your business plan and make sure you're staying cost competitive? And then obviously the last one's just the availability of it. Technology is great, but you have to have it, designed, assembled, put together. And is there enough people out there that are in this business that's going to be able to put it together when you need it and at a cost that's right?
Mm-hmm. When you mentioned labor and technology's balance of trying to see what is right. What are some of the challenges you see with technology in the food business? Not speaking specifically to yours, but in general, some of the things is processing. How do I get the food in and out, and how do I get it packaged? What are some of the challenges that you've seen around that make you think that that's going to be one of our bigger challenges?
Well, it's robotics are really helpful in a lot of applications, but there are certain applications in the processing stage that, I'm not sure that the technology and the price point is there to really, help do other certain things. So you're always going to have that balance of what the technology is going to do for you and what you're going to continue to, have, people doing for you each and every day out on the floor to make sure you're making a safe, quality food product for the consumers and the customers that you service.
Right. And now tell us a little bit, tell the audience about your background. How did you get involved in manufacturing as a whole? What was the key moment for you that said, I'd like to do this. This is something I'm interested in?
Sure. I think growing up, my father was very mechanically inclined and, got us started early as kids helping him with, odd jobs and things around the house. But when I got out of college, I kind of was, doing some coaching, hockey coaching and stuff, and finally decided, I need to get a job. And my dad was in the auto industry at the time, and I was fortunate enough that they were hiring. So I put an application in and got a job in the auto industry, and really started off at the ground floor. I was basically cleaning, working in the sanitation department, and cleaning machines, cleaning stairs, halls, wherever they needed to keep clean and organized each day. But that was really my start, and from there I started to get a chance to apply for different jobs, and it really was when I started running what we call upsetters on a forging press, and was making axles, that I really started to see a lot of the other parts of manufacturing, like, for example, the teamwork, working as a team in that cell, the SPC and the quality control and all the things that went into making a good quality part, and the R&D that went into it as well. I started to get really interested in that, and I found it fascinating at how many axles we made a day across 3 shifts. And I kept thinking about, where are all these cars? And there's a lot of cars out there. So it was just kind of struck me. And from there, I started helping out around the equipment with just little things like organizing, shims and tools that we used on the job, and working with new people coming into the plant, showing them, changeovers and setups and troubleshooting things. And I think from there, I started to get into more of the training side of the business and stuff, and really took off. And, a couple of managers, a couple of people, saw that in me and gave me an opportunity. And I really got into training in the auto industry. And that's when it kind of really took off for me, as far as my career shifting from, out on the floor working every day, to being, more of a supervisor and a manager, and helping in the training area. So that's where it really all took off for me, was in the auto industry. And when I put the training piece together to it, I really became, hooked on it and saw a lot of opportunity.
Do you see a big difference today versus when you first started in the workforce itself?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. People change. Yeah, it's just the way things go. I think back when I was first starting off, things were a lot different as far as the generation that was training myself and others. They were more hardworking middle class people that they'd work 7 days a week if you let them, and they were pretty adamant about what they did, and the tough group of guys. And today I think people are a little different. They're more like you said, technology is exposing us, not even just in the workforce, but at home with computers and cell phones and iPads. And so the people today are a little bit less interested in working 7 days a week and just being at the plant all the time. So I think there's more of a little bit more of a work-life balance that's really shifting as far as, the younger generation and stuff. But the younger generation, again, the technology and the cell phones and all that stuff, they're a lot more exposed to it back compared to when I first started, right? Everything was manual, and a lot of physical labor went into making those parts every day.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned that, because I think when we look at the up and coming generations that are working in our industry now, and their embracing of technology, I often say this, they're fearless. You give them a device, they don't care what it is. They can figure it out in a matter of a couple minutes, where maybe our generation has more of an attitude, well, I don't want to press the wrong button. I don't want to break something. I don't want to push something that's wrong. They just get in there. They they just seem to just almost intuitively know what buttons to push and where to go. And even if they've never seen it before, they seem to pick it up so much quicker. And I think that is one of those areas that when we look at workforce, accentuating those skill sets, is what leads to a good. How do we leverage the things that the next generation does well already? Is that something that you're seeing more when you're hiring new people for manufacturing, that's one of the areas you have to kind of highlight?
Yeah, for sure. I think, like you said, they're definitely more receptive to that type of information at the machine, on the computers, stuff like that. I mean, still, there's always a certain percentage of them that are worried and nervous about it, but we went through a couple of launches with new technology in our facility, and people took to it really fast and did a great job with transitioning some of our, on the line data management systems that help measure our performance each day. So that's the plus side. Like you said, they're less afraid. They're more willing to jump in and try it. The downside a little bit of it is, though, is there's still some jobs out there in manufacturing that, you don't have a lot of that technology at your fingertips. It's manual work, and it's staying focused on a task for a period of time. So you definitely have to find that balance for them, because I think the younger generation wants to be, kind of looking into that stuff, using technology. They're used to having it in their hands all the time. So, how do you set your workforce up so that they, you can still get the work done every day and the product out the door, but they're feeling engaged, and they're feeling a part of what's going on. And like you said, it's in an area that they're used to. And if they're just doing one thing for too long of a period of time, I think it's just not engaging for them, and then it becomes difficult to retain them.
Right. You mentioned there about data analytics and gathering the information. Do you see a big shift into IoT and analytics and predictive maintenance side of things?
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely moving, quicker than you can actually keep up. So, you have to stay ahead of your competition and using your data and analytics. There's a lot of talk about using your data and your analytics in a way where you're making decisions right in the moment, right? When I first got into some of my continuous improvement work at another company I worked at, we would get data, we'd take a look at it, we'd go back down on the floor, maybe talk to some key people, let's talk about this, and then we'd make some decisions on, let's make a couple changes, let's make a couple adjustments. Today, technology and data at your fingertips, where you can make, changes on the fly, right? Such as, weight control within your products. The data can basically tell you need to make a change. So you can either manually make that change, or there's technology out there today that if you can afford it and it's available, it'll change, your process as it sees the data shifting to keep it, within range. So it's amazing what's going out there with the data that's available, and how you can use it to, basically what we like to say, win each day.
Yeah, it's really interesting you say that, because I hadn't really thought about some of those things, especially in the food world of, for instance, as you're packaging a container and based on weight, is that an area where you can kind of make changes on the fly?
Yeah, for sure. That's definitely an area that you want to keep, your ranges where they are supposed to be. It's very important to the quality of the product and the customer, and obviously to, legally, you have claims on your food you produce, and you have to live up to those. So the technology is, out there, and it's basically available for us to continue to use and develop, to help us make those decisions, and making sure we're within spec, throughout the day.
When you mentioned earlier about cost, trying to be competitive, and are some of the new technologies helping you to do that? Is there, whether it's technology from the standpoint of monitoring temperature or monitoring content levels by weight, or what are some of the areas that you feel that it's important to try and be competitive in as we continue to move forward and over the next 5 years, how technology can impact those?
Oh, for sure. Robotics is playing a big role now in helping us stay cost competitive. In a sense of that, it helps tremendously in certain jobs that are just ergonomically not sustainable over time. So, the robotics have really grown and are helping us tremendously in that regard, and it keeps our labor costs under control as well. And again, like I said, not a real thankful job to sit and move product by hand or with your arms all day long. So there's a lot of opportunity there with robotics that are helping us. And like I said, ergonomically, your cost as far as insurance and compensation for people is one thing, but the injury is another thing, right? That can get real expensive. So that's one spot that it's helping us out. I also think, with the robotics, some of the machine rates and speeds that you can maintain, the robotics are definitely keeping up now and getting better and better each day, where you can run, rates and at maybe a lot faster than you used to be able to before because of the equipment that's available in the technology.
You mentioned about ergonomics, and I could see where that would really be important, especially from a manufacturing standpoint. If you can reduce the exposure to risk, if you can do things that keep people's hands from having to rotate in certain, and let's say, unnatural positions or awkward ones that may take a greater amount of strength, and maybe the personnel you have, everybody is not the same. You can't say, well, we're going to put all these people on this line, and it's going to fall to the minimum aptitude. So if somebody is maybe smaller or weaker, it could easily have more of an impact from an ergonomic standpoint for that person that may not be able to compensate for it. Is that something that becomes a challenge as a plant manager to say, we need to look at a different solution because our personnel either can't keep up or are challenged to? And if you start to chart injuries and you start saying, well, more people are getting hurt on this, we need to find a way to make this better for them.
Yeah, 100%. Safety's, our daily focus every day. So, and you're right on. Everybody has, different height, different, shapes and sizes. We all are as people. So, and sometimes the robotics help manage that for people in a way that it's taken them out of those unsafe, like you said, work areas, their hands, their shoulders, the way they have to move each day. So that's going to be a tremendous help in the future from that perspective. And like we talked about a few minutes ago, the cost of insurance and injuries, just are getting more and more expensive, and you don't want people, going home hurt to their families and stuff after work. You want them to go home, healthy and ready to enjoy the quality of life that they can.
Right. And have you guys, by any chance, looked into things like exoskeletons? Has that been something you guys have looked into, which basically is the skeleton you put on, for people that don't know what these are, where you strap them onto your body and they kind of work using hydraulics and electronics to basically lift more easily or more readily than your body would normally, to basically counterbalance what the weights or the range of motion that you have to accommodate. Is that something that it may not apply for you guys? Maybe somebody can't use those, but I was curious if that was something you used or looked at.
Yeah, we actually did this year. That's funny you bring that up. We sat through a presentation on the different units they have, and we actually looked at one of our jobs where people are loading bags in to make a mix and into like a blender type system. And we went through the presentation with them, and they showed us how they work. And what's really interesting is how you can, to your point earlier, right? Everybody comes in different shapes and sizes. So right. These things are adjustable and can be, utilized in a way that accommodates for, based on who you are as a person. So, really fascinating. We continue to have that on our radar right now. And the one particular job we were looking at, the one application just wasn't right, but we're talking about a couple other positions and in areas that we're going to, maybe get one of those in and actually try to trial it in the year 2023.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I was curious I know that type of technology doesn't work in every application.
Yeah. Yep, that's correct. Yep.
It's tough because I think people think, oh, well, that's great. Yeah, but you have to have the right application, the right range of motion, the right process even. So exactly.
Yep. Yeah, and the company was really good too. They were very open and honest about, the processes, as you said, and would it be a good fit, and would it do what you want and keep your people, safe, but in the right work zones and the right rates and stuff too, so that, it's not counterproductive as well. So they were really good to work with. So that's, like I said, we're going to take a look at a couple other areas and possibly see what we can do for 2023.
Great. In the technology side of things, what are some of the technologies right now that you're looking at 5 years out to say, yeah, this may not be today, but 5 years from now, we may use some of these things, even to the point of, I always talk about manufacturing because people look at these additive and 3D printers and they see how it can print like chocolate or print batter for to make shapes onto pancakes and things like that. And I always said, well, most manufacturers like yourselves have been doing something very similar to that all along, Is there ways you guys have looked at, because in general, that's what you're doing. You have a nozzle you're controlling for different foods and different rates and range of motion that you're moving it within. So is that something that you've looked at as more of the 3D printing technologies?
We have not, but I am, sure that maybe people are looking at that and taking a look at probably, our engineers and people that work with us are definitely probably looking into that. Nothing that I've seen yet that would apply, to our plan at this time, but it's an interesting point, and definitely, like you said, it's amazing the stuff that they're making with those today. So, why not? Why not? It's definitely not out of the question for the future.
Right. I know when you look at things, because people think of, well, everything is volume, and but that is really not true. Because if you look at, if you look at the example of M&Ms, you can buy custom made M&Ms that have your name printed on them or initials, and is that type of market something that people want? Where I want something that's customized to me. Maybe people used to, like look at Ford. Had you can have any color you want as long as it's black.
Right. Exactly.
And now cars come in all different colors, and you can even get them customized. And I was curious if that was something that, like in the food industry, that somebody says, well, I want this one made this way with this type of ingredient. Then over here, I want one that's different with this type of an ingredient. Do you get more customized orders?
Yeah, we definitely, obviously, you want to control that for a lot of different reasons, right? The more different ingredients you put into food, one, you have to order them, you have to get the supply, you have to warehouse them, you have to move them. So that's important to try to control how many different types you have within your business. It can get to a point where you're just not cost competitive with too many different, ingredients that you have to manage in your processes every day. So we definitely are, looking at that all the time. But to your point, it's customers, want what they want, and you definitely have to be more flexible today and be willing to, as you said, maybe a little different ingredients or a little different size box or a different packaging type. There's all kinds of requests that come at you. And I think that's something that, you're fighting with to try to be productive and be cost competitive, but at the same time, try to provide those custom things or the things that the customers want that they think will help them sell their product.
Right. Do you see a lot of challenges coming for your product to be so that it's not apples to apples against another product? I see it all the time in different distribution centers where the product is, okay, instead of a 12-pack, I want it in a 10-pack. I want instead of 12 ounces, I want it in 8 ounces, so that nobody's ever comparing things apples to apples.
Yeah, no, that's definitely something that we see. And again, you try to control it the best you can so it keeps you competitive. What people, don't see from the manufacturing side is every change that you and I are talking about could mean changeover time on the line, or could mean, you got to start up a different mix batch, so, and it's depending on the ingredients, right? There's all this food safety and things that go into what can run before something and after something, whether it's an allergen or kosher or organic, and all the new products that people want today. So you're trying to balance all of that as well as be, performing at a level that you keep your prices down. And then, like you said, pack sizes, that's another one with the different customers that are out there. Some of these places have how they want things to be presented to their customers compared to others, whether it's private label, a brand or a co-man type product. So, there's definitely, if you're not flexible, you're probably going to, lose the battle. But finding that flexibility with making sure you can perform at the price points that you need to make money is going to be the trick for the future here.
Right. And I know you'd mentioned that about, anything technology wise has to be able to add value and improve your competitiveness in the marketplace.
Correct. For sure.
What other technologies are you looking at or get you interested in for the future of manufacturing?
Like I mentioned earlier, robotics are still interesting to us quite a bit, not only because of the ergonomics that we mentioned, but robotics now are getting to a point where some of them they're a lot smaller. They're not, big robots that people used to think about, 10 years ago. There's robots out there that can move things that are super heavy and bulky and weird shapes. And then, we have some robots at our site that are picking up, small packages, right, to help pack and put them into containers and boxes for the customer. So they're very flexible. And I think that's exciting for the future for us, where it's not just going to be, looking for the robots that help us do the bigger boxes and the shippers and the pallet type configurations, but how can it help us with the day-to-day monotonous handwork and line work that go on with, again, like we talked about earlier, different variations, different sizes, different shapes, and even different lines within your facility. Some of these robots today, you can move them into a location and basically teach it to run what you're running on that particular line. And if, let's just say you're running that line, on 2 shifts, well, you can move that robot down to the other shift, the 3rd shift, and have it trained, and it can do a different application for you. So there's so much out there that's going on today that definitely can see in the next 5 years how, that can really help us out.
That's fantastic. Marc, we're just about out of time here. I want to thank you so much for being with us today. And tell us how people can reach you.
Yeah, if people want to reach me, they can contact me at 716-400-7979, or shoot me an email at marc.farrell@treehousefoods.com.
Excellent. Thank you so much for being on the show today. Everybody go out. Yeah, absolutely. Everybody go out and make it a great day.
Yeah, thanks, Dean. Have a great day, and thanks for having me again.
Thank you.
Take care.